This is a brief presentation of a dozen slides called Correlation Network Maps. The purpose of these maps is to present visual collections of data in what I hope you will find to be a more accessible format. As you work your way through, feel free to pause the video to look more closely at how the various data points connect with each other. These maps were constructed by my son Sasha. He's a sociologist and a data hound, so this is kindergarten level stuff for him. This may look a little intimidating at first for the uninitiated. It's really not that complicated. In a moment, you'll understand everything it says, and I'm confident that it will add value for you. So please hang in there. To the left, you see the 20 attitudinal measures we asked of students in the recent Community and Belonging Survey. This was section C in the survey, hence the node names to the right ranging from C1 to C20. For background, 90 independent schools across North America participated, involving a sample size of 21,468 students in grades 9 through 12. Our hope here is to better understand how each of these 20 measures connects to the other measures in the same series. I should say that this two-dimensional picture is very much a simplification of what would otherwise be a 20-dimensional matrix. The thickness of the lines reflects the correlation between any two measures as listed on the left. The proximity of the lines reflects how each measure connects to all other measures in the series at the same time. Those appearing in the center of this graphic display the strongest associations with each other. We've highlighted these key measures on the left with red stars, including comfort being oneself, feeling well supported, emotional safety, gaining value from being a member of the community, feeling treated as an individual, and of course, sense of belonging and feeling respected and valued. This last one, C11, feeling respected and valued, is at the core of the grouping. All this said, I should be careful here to share with you one key limitation of correlation analysis. Aside from the usual line, which we've all heard, that correlation is not causation, there is something else to watch for. Looking at measure C16 on the left, for example, I have at least one close friend at school. It seems very strange at first glance to see that the node for C16 is way out on the lower right edge of this map. Intuitively, this makes no sense. The presence of a close friend we all know very well is critical to success in finding and forging a place within the school community. And for that reason, in our minds, it should be at or near the center of this visual. Now here's the catch. Correlation is a measure of variability in one measure in association with movement of another measure. Across 21,000 plus respondents to the survey, on the 5-point scale, this particular measure was scored at 4.5. This was by far the highest rating in the series of 20 measures, with a series average of 3.9. More than 66% rated this close friend measure as a 5 on the scale, almost 87% as a 4 or a 5. So what does that mean? It means that there is very little variability in this measure with movement in any other measure. If almost everybody has a close friend, correlation analysis adds no value. Does this mean that there's no correlation between having a close friend and sense of belonging or emotional safety? Of course not. It just means that this rating from this sample renders it meaningless. Let's move on to the next slide. This is a map of correlations for section D in the survey on self-appraised ratings of preparedness across a series of 15 skill measures. As you can see by the thickness and proximity of these lines, the series of 15 is tight as a network of measures. 5 measures appear in a cluster at the center of this map, worthy of mention. Adapting to face new challenges, approaching life with intellectual curiosity, assuming a leadership role, conducting myself with confidence, and thinking critically. This last measure, thinking critically, is at or near the top of everyone's list of the necessaries of life, and perhaps as one of the great failures of modern education. I would not dispute that. At the same time, I take two other measures in this series as invitations to step up on my personal soapbox. First, adapting to face new challenges. In a world that promises only more and more changes and new challenges, our greatest charge is to help our children and our students to become adaptable. In a system of education that has not, in my view, changed meaningfully enough since it was introduced 200 years ago, we're certainly not modeling adaptability anywhere near an acceptable level. This project on community and belonging, your efforts as school leaders, everything we say about connections, relationships, contributions to things larger than ourselves, all of these pale in the face of a system inordinately focused on training rather than learning. John Dewey is calling. Is anybody at home? Secondly, as I see it from having conducted hundreds of student surveys over the past 30 years, the presence of curiosity is one of the best predictors of success at school and in life generally. Grades predict only grades. Curiosity, on the other hand, is a strong starting point for all good that follows. Feel free to pause the presentation for a closer look. Just for fun, I'm sharing the map of all attitudinal measures along with all 15 of the self-appraised preparedness measures. This reveals the visual connections across all 35 measures, which of course are best studied in detail in a different format. Just the same, the visual may add value for you. All right, here's where it all starts to get very interesting. Early in the survey, we asked students how much time they spend each day on homework. We've added it here to our map of the 20 attitudinal measures from section C. Here's what you haven't heard. The green color of the lines means that the nodes are positively correlated. Red lines reflect a negative correlation. So, time spent on homework displays a negative correlation with most other measures in this map. A couple of things to say here. First, you can see that the shape of the cluster in section C has slightly changed. This is because the position of every variable is simultaneously dependent on the position of every other variable. Each addition or removal of a variable will change the shape of the whole. It's like a community, if you will. Second, and this is the main point of this slide, we find that most measures in the attitudinal series are slightly but negatively correlated with time spent on homework. Again, the thickness of the lines reflect correlation between two measures. The thickest line leading from the homework measure, A7, is for C7. I feel capable of handling the day-to-day academic workload. It's a red line. In other words, the strongest correlation, a negative correlation, is between time spent on homework and feeling capable of handling the workload. Make sense? There is a positive correlation, albeit slight, between time spent on homework and feeling passionate in the study of at least one subject. I take that as a good thing. There's also a slight positive correlation between time spent on homework and engagement in out-of-classroom activities at school. This may support the notion that if you want something done, give it to the busy horse. It may also suggest that students predisposed to being engaged are not limited to just one type of engagement. More research, of course, is indicated. Adding the time spent on homework measure to the self-appraised preparedness series gets very interesting. To interpret what we see here, if I spend more time on homework, I appraise myself as lesser prepared for both making choices that support my emotional well-being and handling stressful situations. Notably, with more time spent on homework, I appraise myself as better prepared for setting high expectations. These next two maps comprise what I hope will be key components in your future conversations with students. To put it bluntly, time spent daily on social media is negatively correlated, red lines, with every single measure in the attitudinal series. Now look at the map of time spent on social media against self-appraised preparedness across the 15 listed skills. Every single measure displays a negative correlation with this variable. Copy and paste this slide. For social media addicts, this one's a real kick in the head. This slide will not surprise anyone. Think of your own experience and that of your students. The more you sleep, the more you agree with every one of the 20 attitudinal measures. No rocket science here. Of course, the same is true here. The more I sleep, the better prepared I feel throughout the series of 15 listed skills. Make note of the thickest green lines in this map stemming from A10 in the bottom right corner. Coping with peer pressure, handling stressful situations, making choices that support my emotional well-being, and organizing time effectively. Here's where agency comes in. The message students need to hear is that they do indeed have control over their lives. They need to become better decision makers in how they manage their time. Turn off the social media and go to bed. Everything else will improve as a direct result. As you would guess, if I have not been personally affected by experiences of discrimination at school, everything else goes up, both in attitudinal agreement and in self-appraised preparedness. Finally, we've merged these 35 measures with the key breakdown measures we've already discussed. This visual portrayal underscores the need for you to connect the dots in conversations with students and with their parents. From this, you can see the universal positive correlations with not having been affected by experiences of discrimination at school. You can also see the universally positive associations, green lines, with hours of sleep. Hours spent on homework consistently show negative correlation, red, to other measures, and time spent on social media for every single measure comes up negative. Thank you for your patience in joining my journey through this presentation. I hope it adds value for you. Have a wonderful day.